Welcome to the Podcast Discovery Show, the podcast that's about other podcasts, where every single week we have a deep dive discussion, book club style, about a podcast we recommended last week. And at the end of this episode, we're going to recommend a brand new show, and we'll talk about that one next week. And I'm Kirk.
And I am Zach. And we are right in the middle of spooky month.
Yeah.
So we have stuck to what we've always liked to do during October, and that is talk about some spooky podcasts. And Kirk brought one last week that we're going to talk about today called Haunted Places.
Yeah, so I was looking for a new one. You know, I listened to Spooked, one of my favorite shows around this time. But I feel like we've talked about it so many times. I'm like, I need to find a new one. So I did some research, listened to a bunch of shows, and I landed on this one. But yeah, I was looking for some spooky podcasts, and I came across this one. And what I really liked about it was that it doesn't just focus on spooky haunted places in the U.S. Because I feel like there's only so many haunted places in the U.S. You know what I mean? And you hear, how many times have we heard about the Winchester house, the Winchester mansion or whatever? There's so many times. And the one that we talked about on Astonishing Legends, that one's one of the most haunted places in the U.S. So there's a lot of these, just you hear about them all the time, but this show talks about places that are haunted all over the world. So it's awesome. And the host, I'm like, man, I know this voice from somewhere. And it's because I used to listen to the show, I think it's called Serial Killers. And he also does one called Cults. But he's one of the hosts of that show. And he's just got this unique, kind of deep, a little bit of an ominous type voice, you know what I mean? Which is perfect for this kind of show.
It is. Yeah, he definitely adds a lot to the ambiance of the show. But yeah, this specific episode is about La Casa Matusita in Lima, Peru. And it is a house that it sounds like it was the area started having interesting, and by interesting I mean awful, terrifying, horrible things happening on it in the 1600s.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing about like haunted places here in the US. We're a very young country, you know. So it's more like, okay, Civil War or something happened here, a lot of people died, yada yada yada, whatever. But you've got places like this one where you're talking hundreds of years of weird, crazy, bad things happening, like hundreds of years. And this is one of the reasons I picked this one, is because there was so many different things that happened in this same spot, literally throughout like the decades and millennia.
Centuries. Yeah. And all awful. Like, and through the show, they kind of walk through some, but yeah, it's actually named after one of the last horrible things that happened there. And so then he ends up backtracking. And the general format of the show is it's very narrative style, where you have him telling this story. And I feel like a lot of this is based off legend and kind of a cultural storytelling type of thing, because they said a lot of these things, especially the early ones, weren't even in the time of like current recorded history. So It was kind of a folklore thing. It was something that everybody knew this story about this house and this thing that happened. And so a lot of it's been kind of aggregated, and then also I'm sure embellished, you know, as kind of stories go, you know, they gain new life. They pick things up. But literally the name Matusita House is from one of the last travesties that happened on this land. And so he ends up taking you way back to the 1600s to kind of start the story of this haunted house in Peru.
Yeah, he kind of like starts it at the end, you know, and then he goes back and which I love, you know. It's a horrible story, you know.
It's terrible. It's all terrible.
This Japanese guy, the immigrant that had immigrated to Peru with his family, and it apparently there was like a ghost lady that had been haunting him, essentially.
That he was just really into, he was
into the ghost lady,
a sexy, fiery way. Like, I think she was literally like, the ghost lady was covered in fire that didn't burn him, and every night when he would go to sleep, I guess it was like a sexy haunting. He was like, I don't hate this. It's not terrible.
They made pottery and stuff. I mean, it was
like Ghost. Beautiful. That's where they got the inspiration for the movie Ghost.
Exactly.
Patrick Swayze.
But so he's having these weird dreams, and he's seeing this lady, the fire lady or whatever. And then he basically finds out that his wife is cheating on him, and he catches her in the act or whatever. And he kills everybody, and then he kills himself. He kills his wife, her lover, I think their kid, and then himself. It's just horrible. It's a horrible story. But that's how the show starts. And basically this guy was haunted. And why was he haunted? Let's go back to the beginning. And he actually kind of everything goes a little bit. He doesn't go in really chronological order, does he?
I think it mostly was because, okay,
he does jump back.
Let me throw this on here so everybody can take a look, because a lot of these, they follow kind of the same path. There's several articles, but most of them, hilariously, most of the articles that I saw about this place are travel articles about advertising for traveling in Peru. And it's like, okay, I mean, if you want to go be haunted on your vacation,
shoot me that link. I'm curious. I do want to see a picture of this place.
I put it in chat. But essentially, they all started at the same place where there was a Persian at the time. So that will give you a sense of how old this was. It was pre-Persia not being a place. And let me find her name real quick. I'm going to have trouble pronouncing it, I know, because I remember it being slightly difficult to pronounce. But a lot, like it says, it's often ranked as one of the most haunted places in all of Latin America, that's a bold statement. So the legend starts with the colonial era. So there was conquistadors, and the Spanish were all in Peru at the time. And there was an immigrant named Dervaspa Parvene. I don't know. I couldn't remember what he said in the episode, but
Dervaspa Parvena.
Okay. So she essentially was accused of being a witch because she did a lot of herbal medicine, apparently, and she would help people a lot. And this one actually says that, like, one of the articles I saw was like, oh, she was part of the occult and like all this weird stuff. And so she was eventually tortured and burned at the stake. And legend is that she cursed the ground and said that no family could ever live here again without, like, nobody could make a home on this land ever again because she was killed. And okay, first thing that this made me think of was the Salem witch trials. Was that at like the same time? Yes, it was. The Salem witch trials were in 1692. So I don't know what about
I did not know that.
What about the I don't know. What about that time was like hyper religious zealot type things? Because that would be like Puritans. That would be very, very old versions of any of these religions. And the Salem witch trials, which I think there was a lot of random stories that would kind of pop up, but was in 1692, a group of young girls in Salem Village in Massachusetts claimed to be possessed by the devil and accused several local women of witchcraft. And then everyone freaked out. So it was essentially a panic-based thing. It was all the
hysteria.
Yeah, all the people, there was hysterics, and they started trying to find witches, which, as you could probably guess, is difficult to do. So
No, it's not. You throw them in the water, and if they float, they're a witch. And if they sink and die, they're not.
Yeah, it's
God, the stupid stuff that people thought back then. Oh man, it's just, it always makes me think, what is the thing that we think now that is as close to as stupid as that? Because that's a different level of stupid.
It's very special. And yes, I understand that they didn't have the internet. They had very little education, but still, like, because the one I'm seeing here, so this is one place, one thing that happened. The first person was, like, the convicted witch was hanged that June, and then 18 others followed, and 150 men, women, and children were accused over the next several months. So this wasn't some little thing. And I was just, as soon as I heard that they were saying, okay, she's a witch, we need to burn her because she's healing people, I was like, oh, so this wasn't like isolated to puritanical early America. It was something that was just a thing. People were getting called out on being witches and executed publicly. That's why I'd never want, like, everybody has that idea of
The good old days.
I want to go back in time. It's like, do you? Do you really want to go back in time? I guarantee they're going to think you're a witch and they're going to burn you.
Immediately. So that's why time travel has never really caught on, because every time they travel back in time, you get killed because you get caught and you think you're a witch.
I do think that is a great idea for a very dark comedy video where you have a time traveler who shows up somewhere and they immediately kill him. The end.
Yeah. So her murder, her even torture, made me think about the Inquisition, because it's a very weird time. I've never really studied it, and looking back, when I was younger, I went to Europe, where in Spain, so the Spanish Inquisition. So I've been to Spain a few times, and there's all of these museums about torture, and I always was like, why? Like, it's so weird. And it's because of this time period. And it's an insane thing that happened. And I looked up some of the stuff about the things, because even what they did to her is they hung her up like by her wrist, because she thought she was going to get hanged. And essentially they were torturing her is what they ended up doing. Which that's one of the things that they did. I forget which that one's called. It's strapado. It was a slow, painful torture, and sometimes they would put weights on your feet to pull you down even more. It basically pulls your joints, your shoulder out of socket and stuff like that.
Yeah, it disconnects your arm from your body aside from skin.
Horrible. Tormenta de toca. It was basically like waterboarding, but even worse, because they wouldn't just put water down your throat. They would stuff almost like a thin rag type rope thing down your throat, and then soak that. So then that's slowly, absorbing the water in your throat. It sounds horrible.
Yeah.
And most of this was not to kill you. It was to torture you, to make you admit that
you're a witch.
If you were the Inquisition was even crazy. It was more like, are you not a Catholic? Because some of these people were killed because they were Jews. Anything that was not Catholic was just murder time. And I've heard the rack so many times.
I have heard of the rack.
Do you know what it is? I didn't really know what it was.
Is that the one where they tie all your limbs up and they stretch you out?
Yeah. So basically they tie your hands and your feet, and there's a crank, and they literally will pull you apart. It's very ridiculous that was a thing. Yeah, the rack, or the ladder, as some people called it. And then they had, of course, they would burn men's beards off. They would burn people alive. They had a thing called a dry pan, which they would just basically burn a bunch of people at once. People getting their toes pulled off. That sounds not pleasant.
Not particularly good. I don't think I'd want that.
And then this other one about this was the last resort. If they couldn't get you to confess any other way, the last resort was basically they would lather your feet in a very flammable substance and just catch them on fire until they were just bones. So they would burn your feet off, essentially. That
is so messed up.
So this is what happened to this lady. She was tortured and then killed, but hers was because they thought she was a witch. And legend has it that she cursed the ground, like Zach said, and then bad things from then on happened at this place.
And that's the beginning. That's the first terrible thing that happened here. They said that that's not even the most famous one, or the thing that causes the most hauntings at this place. Because they say a lot of times what you'll hear if you're in this place is you will hear screaming, you will hear maniacal laughter, and then you'll hear complete silence randomly out of it. And then you will get intense visions of violent imagery while you're in there.
Nope. Mm-mm. Don't like that. I don't like that one bit.
I mean, yeah, that wouldn't really be something that I would enjoy experiencing if I was. But I think that this if the amount of information about this and kind of the local legend about this is true, I don't think people are just going here to hang out. Like, I think the only people that are going here are going there to see like the scariness of it. Because yeah, I mean, I feel real bad for if anybody. I think that you would have to tell people if they were like trying to buy that house and fix it up. And it's like, this place is messed up. You don't want to be in here.
It looks like a flipping like street corner building.
It just looks like an office building.
Maybe like even a small hotel or something with the way that it looks. But one of my favorite stories, and it's disturbing, but it's isn't it the most famous one about the, what was it? It wasn't a king. It was like a lord or something, right? Like and he was a really like bad guy. Was this the one where he tried to kill his dad and his dad died early or something like that? Or was it a different one? I'm thinking of a different episode. I don't know.
I don't think it's that one. I don't know. Maybe though.
Basically, what the legend was that they had spiked his drink with some sort of hallucinogenic, correct?
Yes. That was the legend, that they spiked it with a hallucinogen and then he went bonkers.
Yeah, so he started seeing essentially like ridiculous visions of gruesome things like cannibalism and really just intense things. And they described it, of course, and it sounded ridiculous. So that's a very famous one. And that's why they were saying, like you'll see things that.
Oh no, he didn't have a vision. Like was that all saying that he just had a vision that happened, or like that was the lore that it happened, that he spiked the dinner party's soup with the hallucinogen, and then the Lord guy, I can't remember what they actually called him, Ferdinand, I think was his name, but the guy who like he was like his master went completely insane and like eviscerated the entire group of people and was like cannibalizing people.
Yeah. But I don't know if it was a hallucination or if it was real. That was the thing. That's kind of like the up in the air part of the whole story, because it's an old story that's kind of just passed down.
It's definitely the legend is that something very bad happened during a dinner party.
And cannibalism is it's just kind of like that. It's so weird and cross the line and unnatural that there's something about it that's just, it's very unsettling to even think about.
It definitely is. But yeah. And this is paraphrased because it's just from the other article. It's just easier to kind of like summarize a little bit. So yeah, they gave him a hallucinogenic plant to try and embarrass their master, who was a jerk. And then after serving the man and his guests the drugged refreshments, they waited outside. Soon they heard laughter, and then they heard screaming, and they waited until the screaming stopped, and they went in, and the master and all the guests had like ripped each other apart. There was just bodies everywhere. And all of the people who apparently were there, all of the servants, were permanently brain damaged, essentially. They ran out babbling senselessly and were promptly locked away in an asylum where they never recovered from seeing that. That's that story. And that's the most famous one about this house, apparently.
It's just crazy. But a more lighthearted one, and this is the one that I kind of want to end on, so it's not too much of a downer, was the one about the comedian going.
Yes, the comedian one is good.
So this comedian wanted to go debunk the legend that this place was haunted. And, the story is he went and he said he was going to spend the night there or whatever. And it did not go well. It did not go well at all.
Yeah, he ended up. And what was he? I'm trying to think. Because you're talking about the TV guy, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the TV guy went in there and he did all that, but then didn't he say it was a hoax?
Yeah, he claimed that it was a hoax, that he didn't get scared and not leave immediately, like after like a couple hours.
Oh, I thought he was saying that the whole thing was a hoax because, okay, the story was that he like got scared, ran out, and then had to go to psychological care for years. I thought you were saying that all of that was like a hoax to like make it seem more haunted. Maybe I misunderstood that.
I don't know. I understood it differently as well, so I don't know. I don't know which way is the right way.
Who knows?
That's what's cool about a book club style discussion, because that's the way I took it.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, a comedian went in there and tried to prove how crazy it was, and something happened.
Yeah, he saw this like lady that would burn him with her nails. It was weird. She would like rake her nails across his back, and it would burn his skin, but yet there wouldn't be any marks or anything like that. And yeah.
It honestly was a kind of a cool story because, yeah, she was like testing his jokes. She's like, tell me a joke. And then if she didn't like it, she would like scrape him.
Yeah. But so, yeah, that was haunted places, specifically La Casa Matusita. That was our first of our spooky podcasts.
And I'm trying to figure out if we're putting a Spanish accent on a Japanese name. I haven't quite figured that one out, but we'll see. You see what I'm saying? I don't know because they named it after the Japanese family.
That's the way he said it as well.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just going to lean into it that way.
But yeah, really, really great show for spooky time. It's very atmospheric and scary. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit scary storytelling, it's a good one. You can check out real haunted locations and hear kind of a narrative story around them.
And if you listen to your podcast on Spotify, they have bonus episodes that are on Spotify exclusively that I almost wanted to recommend one of those because they're just fun. I love urban legends because they're just, a lot of times they're a little bit goofy, but they also seem a little bit more real in some ways. And so they have specific bonus episodes about urban legends on Spotify on the same feed as this show. But I didn't want to exclusively have Spotify episode. So
where people have to listen to it on Spotify. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they do have an exclusive over there that you can check out.
So guys, we love podcasts, and we love that podcasts are free. Free stuff is awesome, right? But something that a lot of people don't know, podcasts are not free to make. They cost money. We have to pay hosting fees. We have to pay, specific things like for the recording, like the way we record and stuff like that, as well as equipment and things of that nature. Because of that, we have some really cool and amazing ways that you can help partner with us and be an active participant in keeping the show running.
Definitely the easiest way that you can support the show is just by hitting follow or subscribe on any avenue that you like to use. We're on YouTube. We're on I think every single podcast catcher. Mm-hmm. So you can definitely find anything on there and follow or subscribe. It really helps with visibility, and it's an easy way to do it. We have a Twitch channel, and we live stream, and it's easy to check us out that way. And you can actually talk to us and call us sellouts when we have these types of conversations. It's all part of the fun. And then we also have a Patreon. I'm trying to think if we have anything else. We have like a Venmo. We have
so many things.
Any way that you'd like to get involved, there's an opportunity there. But really, in the end, we appreciate the support by just listening to the show, and we really appreciate it. It's allowed us to have a great time doing something that we've enjoyed doing, and yeah, we just appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we for sure love making the show, and we hope that the show helps you discover new things, whether it be podcasts or science things from the other Discovery show or anything like that. We love discovering things with you guys. So I guess that brings us to this week's recommendation, because it is Halloween. It is Halloween. Halloween, guys. So it's Halloween themed shows. And I have another one. I've listened to this show for a while. It took me a little bit to pick the exact one. It's called Let's Not Meet. Now, did you know that this was a type of like subreddit thing? I didn't know this was a thing until I started listening to the show. And
I think I have heard of that subreddit. I don't like it. I'm not like subscribed to it.
So it's like creepypastas. However, it's supposed to be based off of real things. That's the concept. Granted, I'm sure a lot of them aren't, but you got to suspend your disbelief that all of these are based off of real scenarios that have happened to people. And so it's spooky, creepy. It's more creepy than it is spooky stories. You know what I mean? It's not like ghosts. This is more like creepy people doing creepy things.
But it's supposed to be moderately reality based.
Mm-hmm. That's the idea. And so the episode that I am recommending, it is Let's Not Meet 1. It's season 1, episode 8, entitled The Attic. So listen to that one, and we will talk about that one next week. And remember,
there's always more to discover. Thank you for listening to the Podcast Discovery Show. We have a few things we'd like to tell you. First, we would love to hear from you on Twitter at the PDS Official or in our Facebook group, the Podcast Discovery Club.
Secondly, leaving a rating or review on iTunes helps tremendously in giving us visibility and also visibility to the podcast that we recommend. You can also check out our Patreon page to get exclusive bloopers, old episode archives, and other exclusive content while supporting the show.
Finally, seriously, get in touch. We'd love to hear from you about what you love about podcasts. And thank you for being a part of all of the things that we do.
This was a podcast from the Podfix Network.